Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hotmess Homeschooler podcast in Zoom. Today, I am so honored and excited to interview Lara Patangan. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
She wrote an amazing book that you all need to run out and go get. It is on Amazon, and I have it on my site on hotmesshomeschooler.com under Stacy's favorites, my Amazon favorites, and you'll find it in the podcast mentions section. It is called Simple Mercies, and I'm just going to show you. I've been pouring through this book, and I have pages dog-eared, stuff highlighted, underlined. There is so much goodness in this book, and I feel like you need this in your life. So, Lara, would you like to share your story, and then I'll kind of talk a little bit too afterward about like my very favorite parts of this book.
Sure. And I appreciate that really great introduction. I basically the I was approaching a milestone birthday. I was going to turn 40. I did turn 40. Just this like I have a choice. I was going to turn 40. But anyways, I had this birthday coming up, and you think of all the typical ways to celebrate a birthday, and I certainly thought of a trip, a party, buying myself something shiny, all of the fun things, and none of it really appealed to me. And I think it really kind of reflected where I was at in my life. I think I just had been maybe experiencing this hollowness. I wanted something more and something more satisfying, and it just really felt like a transition for me. And I had this idea. One day I was in mass, and I decided I was going to spend my 40th year doing corporal and spiritual works of mercy. And Stacy, when I tell you how little I knew, I mean, I couldn't have even told you, like, if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't even know what the works of mercy are, I didn't either. All I knew is that they had something to do with service, and that was it. But I was like, I'll Google it when I get home. But it was just, I just had this idea, and I was so excited about it. It made so much sense to me, which I have to say is just the Holy Spirit, when he plants a seed. Um, and I was going to write about the experiences and share it on a blog. But the works of mercy are based in scripture and Matthew. When Jesus says, when you did this to the least of these my brothers or sisters, you did it to me. And it's feed the hungry, visit those in prison, visit the sick, comfort the sorrowful. There's 7 that have to do with the physical body and 7 that have to do with our spiritual needs. And the more I did these works of mercy, went out into the community and fed people at the soup kitchen, went to death row and visited prisoners at Florida State Prison, counseled a woman considering an abortion, some just stocked food at the food pantry, just simple things. But as I did them, I really, I guess I encountered mercy firsthand, in the sense that I think I was so naive when I went into the year. I thought I thought mercy was just this thing that we do for other people, and I didn't realize how desperate I was for mercy in my own life, and I didn't realize all of the ways that mercy applied to me, and I didn't get how practical these works of mercy are. It's not just about our physical food, clothing, shelter, kinds of needs. It's also, especially if you look at the spiritual works of mercy, counsel the doubtful. Like, when do we not feel doubtful? You know what I mean? I mean, I feel
Right.
it like 5 times a day, and it's this, they're very relevant, instruct the uninformed, and comfort the sorrowful. I mean, just things that we all need in our life. I mean, forgiveness is a work of mercy, and it's one of the hardest works of mercy to do, and so I really came to know mercy on this whole other level, than I expected, and it really changed my relationship with God, because I think before I understood mercy, there was always kind of this wall between God and I, where I felt like, um, why would he love me? You know what I mean? I'm not, like, sure, he probably loves me on the level that like he loves everybody because he's God, but I I didn't get that that he could love somebody as ordinary or as broken as me until I understood mercy, because mercy made it make sense to me, and it just kind of stripped that layer, I think, and made me feel like he was more approachable, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Than I did before, because and I didn't know that I felt that way. You know what I mean? Like, I did if you would have asked me, Lara, does God love you? I'd be like, yeah, he loves me, but I don't think I really did get it.
Because
And
you
not
didn't
in that,
encounter it in that
yeah,
sense. That yeah.
yes, not in that unconditional way, not in that way where it's like, you don't have to do works of mercy. You don't even have to get out of bed. God's going to love you. You know what I mean? Like, that is the level I think that I needed it on. And now I really do want to share this message with everybody, because I think it's so important. And I think it's, when I look at the world and, just our own lives, Stacy, just as individuals, like, I can't think of anything that all of us need more than that compassion for each other, that compassion to say, hey, I get it, you're going through a difficult time, and I'm not here to judge you, and I'm not here, to make you feel like you need to do more, or that you're not good enough, or whatever. I think that we all need a lot more of that unconditional love in our lives, because our world is so, it's so achievement oriented, and it's so, our value is tied to what we do and what we accomplish. And as much as I'm sitting here, preaching all this to you, like, I still struggle with it. I mean, I was telling someone today, like, yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me. I haven't been, doing enough, and blah, and it's like, what is that? What is this mentality that we think we have to do something for our lives to matter, that we've got to check boxes off a list.
Right. And it's almost it's so isolating, right? Because then you feel alone, even though every single one of us is going through that, but yet it all it serves is to make you feel like inferior, like you're not good enough,
Right,
or
right,
because no one ever, I don't know about you, but I never get my to-do list checked off.
right.
I mean, I make progress, but just as soon as I cross one or two off, there's five things more that's going
Yeah,
on.
it's like email, it's like trying to delete an email, and you delete it and then three more have come in, and it's just like, it makes me want to cry. Like, I'm like, stop with the email.
Right. And
Um,
I think that is true with mercy. Like, we all need people to walk with us in that, because we were created for community, and we were
right.
created for one another, and to truly see Christ in each other. You know what I mean? That's a beautiful,
Absolutely.
beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is. And, like I said, I've just been so touched by it on just a very personal level, which I did not expect. I really did think that, that this was some feel good acts of service that I was going to go do. And it wasn't like that. I mean, they were hard, a lot of the stuff I did was hard. And I really had to, and I think that's okay. I think that's something we need to acknowledge, and just realize that it's not easy to sit with someone in their suffering, to sit with somebody through a hard time, to show up for people and not know what to say, but it just doesn't matter. You just show up anyway. And I think, the title of the book is Simple Mercies, and I think it's that word simple that we need to go back to, because service doesn't have to look like it needs to be worthy of the cover of People magazine. You know what I mean? We don't have
Right.
to go, to a third world country to be missionaries for God, when there's so many opportunities,
Right in your own backyard.
yes, and at home and where we work, and within our churches and our communities. I mean, there's just so many ways to serve, and I think we need to kind of both broaden the ways we look at service and also, you know, make it more doable, make it more bite-sized. It doesn't have to be. I just feel like I know so many women who are serving and they don't feel like they're doing enough, and
Mhm.
it makes me so sad, you know. And I think it makes me so sad because I get it. I know, you know, I know how they feel. I do it to myself, you know. But it's just, um, you know, being a mother is an incredible work of mercy. I mean, you probably hit 7 or 10 of them, 7 to 10 of the 14 works of mercy a day, you know, just being a wife and mother. And that is not insignificant. I mean, you know, when we look at the state of our world and, um, I mean, our children, they really are our hope. I mean, they are the hope for humanity. And so us spending time with them and, you know, trying to raise them to be, you know, good people with, you know, that love and serve others, I think is an incredibly important thing to do. Um, and I know, you know, you're a hot mess mama, so I know
Yeah.
you get that. And I just want to clarify that is what her her
Yes, yes.
yes, yes. I'm
No,
not
no.
calling her a hot
I
mess.
had to create the brand so I can just embrace it fully
Yeah,
because this is who I am as a person. So it's
yeah,
okay. I own it.
yeah. But that's the beauty. I think with mercy is it is, you know, just owning our own brokenness and just and not being ashamed of it and not but but knowing that mercy is one of these things that that can kind of bridge the gap of our brokenness. You know what I mean? Like it can heal the broken parts, and it can give us a little bit more room to grow and to be different and to change, you know. And that's such a hopeful thing.
Yeah. No, I mean, gosh, there's so much that I'm like, yes. I mean, I love it. And so I love, first of all, that you thought of this for your birthday gift, which
Yeah,
was a gift to others, but ultimately was a huge gift for you, um,
absolutely.
and transformed you, your relationship with God, like, and how you really viewed the world. I think that is so incredible. I love that you know, probably heard this prompting at Mass from the Holy Spirit, and you didn't even know what it looked like, but you stepped out in obedience and did the thing. And I think that action and that's in and of itself a huge like blessing. You know, I think that's awesome. I love the concept of showing up. I talk about that all the time. I think that's really just important to show up for your people, you know, however
Right.
that looks, for your family, for your friends, like even if it's broken, even if it's imperfect,
Yeah.
like love the idea of service. Like so much of this, I'm like, yes. But I think what I loved especially about your book is so she breaks it down by each work of mercy, and then so for example feed the hungry, you know, seems pretty straightforward, you know, so you're imagining, yes, you're going to work at a soup kitchen or whatever. But I love, Lara, that you bring in so many different concepts and ways of thinking about feeding the hungry, I never would have even thought about before. And it's like that in every single one of the works of mercy, gives you really something to chew on and really like, wow. Um, the other thing is then I like how you, when you say, what was it, mercy works or try it
Yeah.
or something at the
Yeah.
end. And then she gives you like, in your home, here's what you can do. In your community, here's some things to think about. In your relationship with God. So you can take it, you know, to all these different levels. So I really loved that. And then you give like some reflection questions so you can like look inside of yourself and say, wow, like, what is this that I'm struggling with? Am I doing this thing or should I be doing that thing?
Right.
And
Right.
then the prayer at the end just like wraps it all up and again like is an offering to our Lord. And I just think like, anyway, I so enjoyed this book. I mean, you see, but that's so incredible. And all of your experiences, like, wow. So do you want to talk about, I mean, some of the ones you mentioned were the ones that I had made notes on because And your writing style is amazing. Like I said, I laughed out loud and got hit in the field all in the same, sometimes the same paragraph. So it's awesome. But what were some of your like most impactful um experiences and encounters that you had?
One of the first works of mercy that I did was Bury the Dead, and it just came about. I read in the newspaper about a terrible car accident that some Burmese refugees had been in, and two of the fathers in the car had been killed. And at my church, we have a large Burmese refugee community. And I knew somebody that worked with them. So I reached out to her and I said, hey, I heard about this accident. And is there anything I can do to help? And she put me in touch with someone that works with them more directly. And she said, well, what can you do? And, just that in itself was such a humbling question because, again, it's kind of like, gee, I don't know. You know
Right.
what I mean? I thought, well, I can cook and I can watch kids or whatever, but, and then she said, can you plan the funeral? And I had never planned a funeral before. But I wasn't going to say no. So I was like, sure. And so I did. So I went over there with my husband and went to the apartment, met with the family. It was just so sad. And one of the little boy didn't even know his father had died. He thought he was still in the hospital. And there was a huge language barrier, and we had somebody else that was with us that spoke their language, but he spoke a different dialect. And so he was even frustrated. So it was like me and my husband and this woman from Catholic Charities, and then, this Burmese guy and the family and the daughter whose dad died. She was driving the car at the time, which it was not her fault. They were hit by, a driver going the wrong way. But I mean, she was there and she was swollen and she was bruised, and just watching her fight back tears, it really, like, I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'd rather watch somebody fall apart or watch them fight back tears, because it was so painful, to see her, try to hold in her pain like that, at such a time when I can't even imagine trying to hold in that kind of pain. And I went with them the next day. I went there just with the Burmese man and the mom and the daughter. We all met at the funeral home, and we met with the funeral director. We just kind of muddled through, but it was messy. It was super messy because there was questions about, how it was going to be paid for. There was confusion about whether or not the family wanted the body cremated, whether they would have a service. This whole business about a cardboard box, because the funeral home, they didn't have the money for the casket, and they were going to bury him in a cardboard box, but then they wanted the family to be able to see him. It just was a lot. But it was like the two things I took away from that is, I never would have been there had I not had this openness and willingness to do these works of mercy, and I think that's important, because I think that there are opportunities in all of our lives, and certainly they don't need to be that drastic, but there are things that we come across, and when you feel a call, and so it's like, answer that. And then the second thing I learned kind of pertains to that, because it's like, don't be intimidated, because I so didn't know what I was doing. And
You showed up anyway. Love
yes,
it. Yes.
and it gets done. And I think, even when I was like trying to get a publisher for this book, you have to say all your credentials and everything like that. And I'm like, the thing that makes me the most qualified is my utter ordinariness, that I I don't have a degree in theology. I'm not a scholar. I so don't know what I'm doing, and I did it anyway. And I think that is so important to get across, because there really isn't anything special about me. I mean, I just did it, and you can do it, and you already are in so many ways that than you probably even realize. I mean, that's one of the big messages of the book. You know, I don't want people to pick up this book and think, oh my gosh, there's one more thing I need to do is just like more service, you know. It's like, no, I want you to recognize that so many things that you already do are works of mercy, you know. And I think that if you're aware of that, it's just a way to be closer to God and to feel better about the kind of service that you do, because so much of the service that we do can be mundane, and it can feel insignificant, and but it's not. You know, it very much matters, I think, to the person on the other end of that. And I think one of the things that always motivates me is just thinking of how good people have been to me in my own life when I've struggled for something, you know, just small little things that they do. And those are the things that I'm most grateful for, you
And
know?
that you hold on to. I mean, and I
Yes,
really love that because that is true. In the book, it is not a to-do list of things that you have to do to be a better Catholic or a Christian or a person, right? Like we talked about, God loves you just as you are. But these are things, like you said, you may be already doing and not even know it. So to
yeah,
read it and be like, oh, and then just being able to open yourself up to allowing, like, even more so, Christ's love to work through you to
right,
them. You know what I mean?
right,
In the simple things
right,
you're probably doing. And I love,
right.
I think you're amazing. I don't think you're just ordinary, but I get what you're saying. Like it's you feel like, obviously if I can do this, anybody can.
Yes,
And I think that's right because I did not feel like pressured or anything reading the book. I felt encouraged. I felt
good,
hopeful. I felt
good.
like, wow, this is so great. Like obviously I wanted to share it with everybody. But yeah, no, it's definitely not something that's gonna make you feel less than or, add something to your already full list. It's
Right.
definitely something that will leave you with hope.
Right. I mean, that is the goal. I really do. You know, people have asked me, you know, what do you want people to take away? And I really, I want the book to be an encouragement. I want, because I think when you start to recognize this stuff as mercy and as acts of love towards your neighbor and towards God, you feel better. You just feel better about life, about your own purpose, about how much you matter in the world. You know, I mean,
And
it
then it's
just,
truly like you make, when they talk about making your whole life a prayer, like honestly, that
yes,
is that you become like a walking prayer. And I think
right,
that's so great. And again, it doesn't have to be just sitting and, it's even in the doing, even in the,
right,
even when you don't feel like it, even when it's
right,
hard, even,
right.
but just showing up and making it happen is so
Right. Because
great.
we have to do those things. You know what I mean? There's so many things. It's like our to-do list. It's like, do we ever put unload the dishwasher on our to-do list? It's like it never makes it, you know, and yet there's this expectation. There's so many things that we do um that we don't get credit for, that the world doesn't, you know, and I think if we could just look at these, you know, small acts of service as okay, I'm loving and serving my family, I'm loving and serving God right now, you know,
Yeah,
then
through them,
um,
like being the hands and feet of Jesus,
right,
even amidst the pots and pans.
right, right. I love that quote.
One of the things that I thought, there were so many, like I said, the counseling at the abortion clinic, there was with the prisoners, like there were so many, but one of the ones that just got me, and maybe because I like to eat, was the story of how you showed up for your friends. I think your best friend had just passed away and you were with the family and doing all the things, and when you came home, your friend had left a cooler. And then I saw you just recently posted about it on your social
Yes,
media too. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she left a cooler of food for her. And on the top of the cooler was written Mercy Matters.
yeah,
And it just totally struck you. And I was like, wow. And then I kind of had this experience. I needed a ride home from the airport on Sunday, just when we got back into town. And we have a couple friend from our church that we absolutely adore. And she came and got me, and she had taken us to the airport as well. I had a water bottle that I left with her. She had it filled up with fresh drink, and she
Oh,
knew we had no groceries in the house. So she had gone to Publix and gotten pub subs for myself, my kids. She got sweet treats. We all had iced teas. She had chips. Like, she had like a little bag for us because she knew that we would have nothing and we were getting in like after 8 o'clock. And
oh
to
my
me, I was like,
God.
oh my gosh, thank you so much for loving us so well. Like, it meant so much to me. And it's so, to her, maybe it was just like, oh, I'm Italian, I like to feed people, and it was no big deal. But for me, that was like such a huge act of
Yeah,
service. And so anyway,
yeah,
it really resonated then when I saw your post about it, and I
yeah.
thought about her, and I'm like, wow, it's such a blessing to have people like that in your life,
It
right?
is, and that's so beautiful. Like, I love that example, and I guess that's all I really want to do is share those things with the world. Just those, like, that story. Like, that's such a great story, of just, um, it's just thoughtfulness. It's just being
Right.
thoughtful, and those things. I don't know. It's like they've kind of gone by the wayside, or they're not as valued as much in our society anymore, and yet they make such a difference, and it's certainly like, yeah, I can feed myself. I can go
Order
through Friday,
takeout,
yeah,
or
order
yeah.
takeout or whatever, but just to know that somebody did something like that for you, you know what I mean?
Oh,
It
yeah,
is,
it got
it,
me here. I was just like, oh, wow, like I felt so loved, so taken care of. And I mean,
yeah,
I'm a military wife. I'm a homeschool mom. I'm used to taking care of everybody, and I'm resourceful and I'm strong, and
yeah,
that's great. But gosh, it sure does feel nice to be taken care of by
yes,
somebody
it does.
else.
And we need that. And I think that's, part of it too, is like it's giving and receiving mercy. It's accepting it too,
Yes.
accepting love from somebody else and letting yourself be loved, in that way, and be embraced. I mean, that's, again, that's so life giving, and I think it gives us all such a sense of peace to know, like, wow, I mean, if she'd show up for me that big just when I get home from a trip from the airport, like this girl's got my back if something really happens,
Right.
I mean, that's a huge comfort, to know that you have that kind of a friend.
It sure
um
is. And I'm blessed with lots of them. So I'm very, very thankful
yeah,
every day. Like, that's my huge prayer of
yeah.
thanksgiving. Okay, so we don't want to give everything away, but what would you say? We've given so many. I love, like I said, I love it. But what would your maybe one nugget of another takeaway that you would like to share with?
um oh my goodness. Well, I'll say this. I think that, for me, there were times during this that I felt, that I think I got a little bit lost with the heaviness of some of the works of mercy that I did. And they made me sad, and I didn't really, and I started to question, like, what am I really getting accomplished here? Because again, I live in this secular world that's like, what are you doing? Oh, if you didn't feed the homeless that day, that the somebody else would have done it. You know what I mean? Like, you have all these like devilish voices in your head that,
Mhm.
tell you it's insignificant, or it doesn't matter, or what did you really accomplish? So I certainly struggled with that. And I think especially the more it went the more the year went on, and the more suffering that I saw. Um, and, the balm for that, when I got clear, you know what I mean, and could see clearly again, was prayer. It really was kind of like, you know what, I may not be able to control, the fact that that prostitute's out there, and, and sitting there and thinking about all the horrible things about her life or whatever, but I can pray for her. I can pray for her that she'll get off the streets. I can pray that somebody will help her. And that was very, I know it sounds simplistic or whatever, but it was a very empowering, I think, because, prayer is a work of mercy and it's so important. And it is something that we can all do for each other. And Stacey, that's one of the things that lifts me up too, is when, other people have said that they would pray for me. That that always brings me a tremendous amount of comfort, to know that I'm in somebody else's prayers. So I think, again, these works of mercy, you don't have to be out there pounding the streets. Like, I get it. Like, if you're working and you're raising a family and you're trying to do all of these things, but we can always pray for one another. And I think that that's like a simple but super important,
So powerful. I mean, right?
thing
Like,
we
you're
can do,
literally
right?
connecting to the creator. And then
Right,
I know some people say, well, there needs to be more, but it's like prayer to me, nothing can be greater. We have to take these
right,
things because we're not going to control these
exactly.
situations. Like we talked about earlier when we were chatting beforehand with our
Yeah,
kids and with everything, like we can't control it all, but there's one
right,
who does. And we just have to
right.
be able to like leave it with him and go, you got this,
Yes,
because I can't.
right. Because I clearly don't,
That's right. So,
no, I
well,
agree.
that's really great. So can you tell people where they can find you on social media?
Yes, I have a website. It's my name. So it's Lara, Lara. Last name is Patangan.com. So LaraPatangan.com. Just Google me. I think it's also under Mercy Matters .net if you go there. The book is on Amazon. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I would love for you to follow me, to join. I mean, I love this community of people on my blog. Again, like, even just that makes me feel so hopeful to know that this message of mercy resonates with other people. And I try to send something out every week that's kind of inspiring, or
I
that
love
maybe
that. I
like,
look forward to it
yeah,
arriving in my inbox. So
thank you. Or maybe something you can relate to, or whatever. But anyways, yes, please.
yes, yes. Please follow, like, connect with Lara
Yeah,
on social media. And then again, if you want to pick up her book, you can go to hotmesshomeschooler.com under Stacy's Faves. And then I've got a tab called Amazon Favorites. And you can find it in the podcast mentions section there. Also, speaking of prayer, I just added to my website in the footer. You can, if you would like me to pray for you, I will carry all of the requests that I get. There's a button in my footer on the website that you can submit a prayer request. And I will carry all of that with me to weekly adoration and place your needs before the Lord and remember you throughout the week. So please utilize that as well. I would love to pray for you because you just heard how important it is.
right.
So
That's
thank you.
beautiful that you do that, Stacy.
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for being on here. Like I said, I really enjoyed the book. Grab it and connect with Laura, connect with me, and we will catch you next week. Take care.
All right. Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.